Right guys, what is going on? So I'll apologise for my lack of content on YouTube this month, but I must say that I do find the off season quite difficult to create content because the reality is bodybuilding is a very monotonous and boring sport. So no one wants to see me just piling a shit ton of food and training. But if you do, you'll come to the right channel. So make sure whilst you guys drop the video a thumbs up, and as always, make sure you subscribe. So today what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you through one of my leg sessions. So what we've done recently is, if you obviously see my previous training videos, and you've been following me through this off season, what we've now done is, because food's getting quite toppy, what we're now doing is we're trying to minimize output just to try and put us in a further deficit, just help continue with that growth phase. So what we're doing today is we're doing light and hamstring curls. So we've already done like 4 or 5 warm-up sets. Now when we're doing warm-up sets, what we're trying to focus on is just getting the muscle prime and ready for the actual working set. So I don't really have like a set amount of sets and reps that I do typically, but what I am doing is I'm starting off really light, doing like 10 to 15 reps. Then as we build up the weight, I'm just dropping down to like 4 reps, because what we don't want to do is waste too much energy before we go into those working sets. So what we're doing now is we're primed and ready to rock and roll. So we've got lying hamstring curls. So I've got 1 times 8 to 10. This is a failure set. Then the second set is a back off set, and we'll do 15 on that. So what I will do is I'll gauge how many reps I can do with this, because although this lying leg curl is a really, really nice one, it's not crazy heavy. So I might not do a back off set. If this is quite light, I'll base my next set on this. So if I'm doing more than 10 reps on this one, I'm not going to bother dropping the weight. So the next set, I'll just do the same. So we'll go for this first one, try and get 8 to 10, but if there's more in the tank, we'll push it. So we're going to do failure, and then we'll dictate what the second set's going to be, whether it's going to be a back off set or whether we're just going to stick with the same weight. Right, let's go. Yeah. Right. Oh. So that was 16, and the form was obviously quite deliberate, so we're not going to be able to make the form any more deliberate than that. So what we'll do is we'll do 2 sets on this one. However, because I'm already quite fatigued from the first set, when we go back in for the second set, we'll look more at a 10 to 12 rep range, because we're not going to get the same amount of reps. If you train to failure, you're not going to be able to match the same amount of reps as you did on the first set as you are on the second. Right, so exercise number 2, we're doing leg extensions. So we're doing the same warm-up format as we did with a lying leg curl. So we did like 15, 10, 6 and 4. And again, although that's kind of structured out in a plan, if I need more warm-up sets, especially because I've got old man knees, I'll take more warm-up sets. So this machine's actually pretty heavy, so we can work within that rep range. So the first set, we are doing 10 to 12 reps to failure. Then the second set, we will drop the weight a little bit, and we're trying to get 16 reps. So one cue for the leg extension, I actually don't like my lower back touching the bench at the back. I just like to lean back on my shoulders. And the reason why is because I like to really open up my hip flexors, because I find I get a better stretch at the bottom of the movement. Whereas I find if you really sat upright, you shorten the hip flexor, and I don't get a better range. So by slightly lifting the hips forward, putting the shoulders back so my lower back isn't touching the pad, I find I get way more range of motion through the quad. So give that one a go. Right. Oh. What did I say, 12 to 15? 10 to 12. Okay. Glad you're paying attention. See, can't multitask. Right. Oh, there's another. Ow. Oh. You notice the tempo is very deliberate. I'm not just kicking the weight up and letting the weight drop back down. The goal is to try and create as much tension and as much stimulus in the muscle as possible. So always make sure the reps are super controlled. Right guys, so next movement, we're going to start now moving on to the fun stuff. So we're going to do some compounds. So what we're doing now is the leg press. So what we're going to focus on here is the first set. We're going to go like 12 to 15 reps. And then we will do a back off because the next set is going to be 20 reps. So again, we've just kind of done, about 4 or 5 warm-up sets. Again, we've just kind of been doing 4, 6, 8 reps because the legs are already warm. And that's why it's good to do the leg extensions and the leg curls before we move on to the compound lift, because everything in the lower body is nice and warm. So you've got to be mindful, I'm getting old and risk of injury is always there. And there's always a little niggle or a little pain just to remind you that you have to be sensible. So with that in mind, being sensible, knee wraps. So not only knee wraps actually help you lift more weight. If you don't believe me, try it, because it kind of acts as like an elastic band around the knee. So it kind of gives you that little bit of a spring at the bottom of the movement. Not only that, I know that my knees are nice and secure. So rather than focusing on potentially getting injured or aches or pains, I can solely focus on just lifting the weight from A to B and trying to get as many reps as possible. Now, before people start commenting on my depth on the leg press, I find that if I go too low on the leg press, I roll my lower back. And I want to keep my lower back totally out of this movement. I want to place all of the load on the quads. Now, thankfully, my quads are my best muscle group. So anyone that wants to hate on my depth, shut up. Right, I'm going to wrap my knees in a lazy way. I should re-wrap it, but I can't be bothered. So what we do is always wrap away from the knee. So I like to try and cover one rotation of the wrap below. And I just work all of the way up the knee until I get one rotation above, and then we just lock it in place. Now these have got like super, as you can see, the elastic on these are super strong, so you don't necessarily need to tuck it under. So the elastic actually works on these ones, and I've had these now for 2 years, and as you can see, the elastic on them still hasn't worn off. So again, working up the quad, covering half of the location before, and then we lock it in, wrap it around, lock it off. Let's go. 3, 2, 1. Come on then. If you want some motivation, you've got Phil Heath up there staring down at me. That actually felt pretty good, but there's not too much more room left on this leg press. But what I'm going to do is take off 2 plates, and then we'll do 20 reps on the next set, which is practically like cardio for me. Right, so next exercise, second of the compound movement. So what we're actually going to do on here is an FST 4 set. So that's basically going to be 4 sets of 4. So the weight's fairly heavy. However, I haven't done this set format on this hack squat before, so this is either going to be too heavy or too light or just perfect. Sounds like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, doesn't it? So what we're going to do is we're just going to try and do 4 lots of 4. However, on that kind of 4th rotation, if the weight's a little bit too light, I'll push beyond that set range. Or if it's a bit too heavy, we'll try and get as close to 4 as possible. So I have done sets of 4 leading up to this, just to try and gauge it. But then with fatigue accumulation throughout the workout so far, I don't know how I'm going to feel after the 3rd and 4th rotation. So enough chat, more squat. That might actually be okay. I actually don't know what brand this hack squat machine is, but I must say it's actually one of my favourites. Shit. Oh man, I think I've actually worked that weight out pretty perfect. This will be a hard last 4. Shit. Oh man, this is where you can tell you peak bulk, because fitness is not my forte. Right, so back on hamstrings again now. So this is kind of like a training split that I've never really done before, where the primary focus at the moment is trying to get more hamstring development. So it's almost like a quad sandwich today. So we start with hamstrings, quads in the middle, finish with hamstrings as well. So what we're doing on this, just to finish off, is like 3 sets of 10. However, this has to be one of the worst seated hamstring curls I've ever used. And the reason being is because you almost feel like you're on a slant forward, whereas I prefer it when there's a bit more of an angle on the machine, because I feel like it just makes it a little bit harder. The hoist one, for example, is spot on, whereas this Technogen one's a bit crap, but we'll do what we can do. So this is the 3rd and final set. Nearly done one more exercise too after this. And again, this is where fatigue starts kicking in, and that's where the intra-workout shake makes a massive difference to kind of help fuel throughout the whole of the workout. So even though like food's quite high at the moment, this session's quite draining. So let's go. Last one for 10. So you see what I mean? I feel like I'm angled forward, whereas I prefer to almost be on a bit of a decline. Right. But if you hinge into it, it makes it a little bit better. That didn't feel too good. I've had a little bit of a tweak in this left hamstring. Ooh, we're okay. That's one of those sets where you've got to play it a little bit smart. I did get a massage a few days ago because this left hamstring has been giving me a little bit of grief. So sometimes when you feel something just tweaking a little bit, it's better to stop rather than push through it and cause any long-term damage. So might have to cut that set a little bit short. Ooh. Right, so this is going to be the last exercise. We were supposed to do some split squats, however, I don't want to risk it with my hamstring, so I'm going to play it smart. We're just going to finish off with adductors, so we're just going to do 3 sets, 12 to 15 reps. Now, one thing that's really funny within the bodybuilding community is probably around 10 years ago, you would never see a male using an ab and adductor machine. However, when you're bodybuilding, that inner part of the thigh, it's really important that you don't have a big gap in between your legs when you're standing in those front poses. So this is one of the best movements to make sure you close that gap. And when you've got a nice thick meaty adductor, it then matches the sweep and it just gives the quad that full 3D look rather than just having a nice big sweepy quad, but then nothing on the inside, if that makes sense. So this is a movement that I've done religiously for a long, long time. It definitely helps give that leg a fuller look. But it's also really bad because when you walk, this is the exercise that makes your legs chafe like hell when you get nice big adductors. So pros and cons. It's better to be jacked than to be able to walk comfortable, isn't it? Right, you ready? These stacks are really light, so that's why I'm really deliberate with the stretch for 2 seconds, squeeze and contract for 2 seconds. Sometimes you've just got to be creative, and if you can make a lightweight feel heavier, then you're winning, right? Oh, shit. Ooh. Ow. Right, guys, that concludes the leg session today. So overall, great workout. I was supposed to be a little bit mindful of the hamstring at the end, but we only missed one exercise and a couple of reps. In the grand scheme of things, I'd rather miss one exercise and a couple of reps than potentially miss numerous workouts because I've got an injury. So I'll get a little bit more work done on it. I did actually have a massage on it a few weeks ago, but I just kind of keep going with that massage therapy just to make sure as we get old and muscles start getting a bit frail, we've got to keep on top of those kind of things now. So guys, hope you enjoyed that type of video. Drop me a comment down below if you kind of like these kind of more raw training style sessions. Let me know. I prefer doing it this way rather than all about the fancy editing. I prefer just doing like the raw training, showing you some of my working sets, explaining what I'm doing and why I'm doing, because I think it's more educational as well as entertaining. But guys, as always, make sure, drop the video a big thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure to subscribe. Until next time, peace.